Oh my god, now with the patch being so quick and so around the corner, we have to talk about the new season pool dungeons, Mythic Plus, Trinkets. These are the wards, but they're probably set in the wrong order because it is morning and I'm drinking my coffee.
Yeah, good morning everyone, or good evening, no matter what. We are covering all the items that... Are they all the items? I'm not sure if they're all the items, but the most cool important ones, the cool ones, because you know some cool fan favorites are coming back due to the new rotation in the dungeons. And as always, we have Sunshade here. Hello, Sunshade!
Hello, hello.
Are you ready?
Morning.
Talk about this.
Oh, yes, I guess.
There's no other choice. We have to talk about these because I'm excited for some of them.
Oh, yeah.
Are you?
Oh,
Definitely,
dude,
yeah.
like I cannot wait to see if, well, we're gonna spoil it. Listen, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm excited about because we will get to it and I will hold my feelings in.
Yeah. He holds it in for a long time. Let's get right into it and start it off with the items from Brackenhide Hollow. Let's go off with the trinkets. First one being the Frenzying Signal Flare. Is it Signal Flare?
It probably should be Signal, but it's a null.
It's a null dungeon.
It's a null. Now, what does this do?
Well, it seems like it summons a ghoul, deals...
A ghoul?
A null, that's what I said.
It's
deals
football
physical
around
damage,
here.
stuns, poisons, targets, or gives you top secondary stats. So it has like one of 3 effects. How does this work, Son, if you've tested it?
I think the null that gets summoned can deal any of these things. And it's an agility and strength trinket, so intellect users cannot... or should not use it.
It definitely sounds like your average damage dealer trinket over there.
Average, yeah, I can totally see the stun effect on a braid boss. That's such a good trinket proc. Yes, please.
Listen. This can be used in arenas. This can be helpful there, and I can totally see it in dungeons.
Sure.
It really depends on what type of numbers we're looking at here, or how much the physical damage actually do, and how much the poison.
You know what? It reminds me of the Ruby Whelp trinket, where you have like one of 4 procs that you can get, but you can train the Ruby Whelp trinket.
Yeah, but is this... I mean, this would be really cool if the null summon does all of those things at once. So he goes in, he stuns it, this physical damage, puts the poison on, and gives you your top secondary stat. That would be
That's like the best solution. Is like, why have 1 of 4 when you can have all?
My question is, does this work with the raid trinket, the class raid trinket? For example, hunters have that raid trinket, which procs when your summoned pets do things.
Ooh, that's a good point.
It's a summon.
Interesting. Is it considered a summon? Yes.
I guess it's how it's scripted, because we've had trinkets that summon pets before, but whether or not the game see them as pets, because I think we've had a similar conversation before where certain pets were influenced by certain classes, auras, class aura, and that didn't work. And I feel like I've heard this before where the devs specifically took trinkets out of class aura and they didn't consider them as pets anymore because they were overpowered. So I would be surprised to see if this is considered a pet, to be honest.
I can totally understand that, given all of the background and the systems that work within the classes and all of the auras and the triggerings of the triggers and stuff. Best to keep the trinkets out of those. It's for the best. What about the tank trinket? There's a tank trinket here, right?
Yeah, Treemouth's Festering Splinter. It's again an agility and strength one. And it impales you, dealing damage to you and releasing slime on you. But the slime absorbs 50% of the damage you take. So you can use it before big abilities come.
50%?
Impale yourself.
Wait a minute.
What?
Is this with a cap, or is it just for a certain amount of time?
It's for a certain amount of damage.
Oh, so it has a damage cap. Okay. Oh, this is really good.
But 50% sounds like a lot.
It's a lot. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Nyalotha trinket the tanks got either from N'Zoth or from the previous one, where you popped it, it gave you an absorb shield, and you absorbed that amount of damage with a 90% damage reduction or something like that. It was nuts.
that was bonkers.
And still 50% damage reduction. This sounds pretty good, depending on how the damage cap actually scales. And of course, how much damage it deals to you. I would imagine it's not that much damage. I would hope.
I'm not sure about this impales you thing. Does this mean that you'll be like rooted or just?
That would be the actual problem, not the actual damage you take, but if it impairs your movement in any way, on top of the entangling affects that we're probably gonna have eventually. That sounds pretty nuts.
I mean, if it's just flavor taste, like okay, you get impaled and you get some damage in, and then the slime releases out of you. It's fine, like visually, whatever it needs to make sense or whatnot. But if it actually mechanically will keep you in place, I see that as a big trade-off for the 50% damage reduction. We'll see.
I think they would mention if you would be stunned or anything like that. They just say you suffer at 250 item level, you suffer 19k nature damage, and the slime absorbs 50% of damage taken up to 76k for 15 seconds. So it is capped, it is timed.
76k, well, it's not that impressive anymore.
At 200 eye level?
At 250, so it's a really low item level.
I can see that. This will probably be very good. I can totally see it.
We'll wait for the numbers.
Okay, one more trinket here.
The agility strength trinket, Idol of Pure Decay. Ranged spells and abilities can unleash a volley of nature damage split between enemies, and it also slows them by 30%. This is not going to be fun to use in a Sanguine week.
Ooh, agility and intellect, not strength.
That just makes everybody a frost mage for like a couple of seconds. So that's not. I don't think that's big of a deal. I think the damage proc is actually very, very important because it's just pure proc, and usually these trinkets kind of sound okay until we actually get them into practice because. A lot of the time, most of the time, people just want stats. Stats generally function better with your spec. They make you scale better. The proc itself would probably have to be really strong, but I can see specs like Outlaw and Windwalker that just, not Windwalker. Yeah, Windwalker that just go with verse. Usually these scale with verse.
These do scale with verse in it, traditionally at least.
This is just for ranged, anyway.
Yeah, this is range. Well, again,
Outlaw's range.
We can talk about pistol shots on Outlaw stuff. I mean, there's other trinkets in the Mythic Plus pool that will probably be more appealing to both Outlaw and Windwalker.
Definitely,
But yeah, I think like the major utilitarian factor would be the 30% slow. But yeah, proc rate, if the proc rate is like super high but the damage is low, then yeah, this will be a more or less utility trinket for sure. However, if the proc rate is lower but the damage is like decent to high, then yeah, the strong contender for all of the casters out there. Definitely. Let's move along to Halls of Infusion, shall we? The trinkets from there, starting it off with Iridius Fragment. Increases the main stat, reduced with every ability you use. This is I don't think I've seen a mechanic like this before.
This is so interesting.
So it gives baseline mastery, right? And then like increases main stat, reduced with every ability you use. So you get a big chunk of like, I don't know, strength, and then it decays by you using your abilities.
Yeah, so I'm imagining like slow castable. What is it? I mean, it's mesh. It doesn't say. I guess everybody can use it. So I'm thinking Arms Warrior. I'm thinking Destro Locks. I'm thinking. I want to say Red Paladins because they don't use haste anymore. But you
no more mastery. No more mastery. No. I don't need no more master. No.
So probably people that just use like slow hitting abilities, like far and few in between.
That would make sense. Yeah, Arms Warrior could definitely be something. This trinket can be something for Arms Warrior.
It could be good for everybody. It depends on how much main stat
How much main stat would this be, like percentage wise?
At 250 item level, the primary stat is 660, and it lasts for 20 seconds, so you can't make it up forever. But it is a lot of main stat. It is already a very good trinket from Mythic 0, for example.
Oh, okay.
Slow casters as well, like specs that need to cast for a long time. I don't know, maybe even Holy Priest to some extent. Maybe healers can also make use of this.
I could
definitely, I
could see that. Resto Shamans, things like that. I don't know a lot of healers that prefer to get haste. I know Resto Druid likes to take haste, probably Discipline Priest, but I guess in a world, healers would prefer to not take haste if they could help it, because haste is always, kind of like a double-edged sword for healers. Maybe not as much in dungeons, but definitely in raids. It's very interesting, and I'm actually kind of excited about this one.
Yeah, for sure. Next on the list, where we have another agility one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Globe of Jagged Ice. Harmful spells and abilities can impale the target with a stack of jagged ice, stacking up to 4. It has an on-use effect. You shatter shards, dealing a percentage of frost damage split among nearby enemies, slowing them by 5% per stack. Another slow trinket. Interesting.
The second slow trinket in about 5 of them.
Thoughts on this? I mean, it has the on-use effect. So this is really cool because the passive enables the on-use effect. We've seen this on a couple of raid items as well. We have like a passive that will build up something for the use effect. Because you have like the jagged ice that it impales your target stacking up, and then the use effect will shatter the shards, right?
You know what?
This is in correlation, right?
Yeah, if the proc is decent enough, this is cool because it can be kind of like a mini game.
Oh well, but the cooldown is decent enough.
Yeah, it's 30 seconds. This is actually cool. I kind of like these trinkets where you can just have like your own separate mini game. You might probably need a weak aura to kind of track it because the WoW UI doesn't really do a good job and letting you track these without an external add-on. So that's kind of iffy, but it does add a little like, oh, I'm doing my rotation. Oh, wait a minute. Now I can use my trinket. Bam! That's pretty cool.
Pretty flavorful. I like it. Next on the list, we should get a proper healer trinket. Should we?
Yeah, it looks like we're getting Water's Beating Heart. It's an on-use, increases one ally's armor up to, okay, and heal them for an X amount over 8 seconds. Effects are increased based on current health, most powerful on targets below 20% HP.
Right, this is the oh shit trinket.
It's more of a tank trinket, not necessarily healer, because it's also the armor.
Oh, doesn't it? But it's an intellect trinket, no?
True.
No, I hot take. I think this is a steaming pile of poop trinket for a couple of reasons. First of all, in any situation where I would imagine a tank would need assistance, they would probably not need armor the most. They would definitely need it a lot. The devs kind of want to push a lot of armor out, but armor is not usually what kills tanks. Hardly ever a lack of armor is what kills tanks. Second of all, always these healing effects that are super strong when targets are very low are very iffy to use because, first of all, you obviously never want to be below 20% HP or at least close to 20% HP to get the most use out of this trinket, and you kind of would like a preventative measure about that, not to mention that it's, I don't know how much, it's over 8 seconds.
If we would know the exact amount of armor, and if that would be a big chunk, wouldn't that make a difference? If it would be like big armored stat, like poof, wouldn't that make a difference? Because it has to be something like.
Think about bears, man. Bears right now gain armor cap and they still die, and they don't die because of armor because it's mostly magic damage. All tanks have a way to kind of reduce physical damage. And the game is, I mean, it's not necessarily that, it's mostly that the encounters that the devs make it so that non-physical damage are the dangerous mechanics or the dangerous hits, the poison hits, the magic hits, all of that stuff.
Alright, well, we called it. It's Poop Trinket. Move along. Neltharus dungeon, let's go. What we have here, Sunshade?
The Erupting Spear Fragment. It's an agility and intellect trinket with a use effect. Throw a spear, which deals some amount of fire damage split between your enemies. Crits for each enemy struck up to 5 stacks. You get crit for each enemy struck up to 5 stacks. And I can tell you, I tested this. I had it on my Demon Hunter. It is very poop to use because you need to put it a bit further away. So if you happen to use it on a tank, you need to step back and then throw it. It's iffy to use. I don't like it.
So you have to step back?
Yeah, I think it has a minimum
you
range.
can't put it right under you. It has to be like a bit forward.
I get it.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, I only played with this while leveling it on beta testing. It seemed good at the time, but we didn't really have much to play with at the time anyway, so maybe it just doesn't scale right anymore, which...
I mean, I don't know about the crit. Some specs will definitely could value the crit depending on how much it goes up. Yeah, monks, rogues as well. Paladin, red paladin, I can totally see it. I'm looking at the value of the crit, to be honest here, and if that is like really good, I can see it using it on a lot of different specs. But other than that, it doesn't really impress me that much, especially with the wonkiness.
All right,
what's next?
The next is a very cool-looking trinket, I would say. The Mutated Magma Moth Scale. It's an agility and strength trinket, and your attacks have a chance to cause flaming tentacles to grow from your body for 10 seconds. And they lash out, dealing some fire damage every 2 seconds, split between enemies in front of you. Damage is increased for each enemy you struck, up to 5 enemies.
Ooh, okay, so this is a passive trinket. I can kind of see this on tanks depending on how it scales. Usually tanks like passive AoE, damage split every now and again in Mythic Plus. It usually helps with the throughput and the aggro keeping. Now, of course, right now it seems that on 250 level it does 1200 fire damage every 2 seconds. Doesn't say for 10 seconds, so that's 5 times. So that's about 6k fire damage. It's not that much.
No, but it looks cool as fuck. Though.
It looks very cool.
We'll take this one for the visuals for sure. I mean, you know, numbers aside,
it's tentacles. Like, who doesn't like?
Yeah, and it's fiery tentacles.
It's fiery tentacles.
It looks insane. Yeah, numbers wise, it's still a guessing game because we don't know until they release the patch what is going to happen with all of the scaling with these. But for sure, one of the coolest. I agree. Next up. Spoils of Neltharus. Its intellect on use effect gain a secondary stat by percentage for 20 seconds.
So basically you get a random proc of the secondary stats. I imagine this reminds me of, is this the same as the Sepulchre Cache of Weapons trinket thing? That you just choose whatever stat procs and then you use it?
No, it's very passive. Think Dark Moonfare shuffling the deck.
Oh, okay.
This is the trinket that I simmed this patch on that I didn't change. I had it on my evoker, on my devoker.
I saw those
at
sims.
372 item level, I think, and it was still simming higher than most of the trinkets I kept getting from Mythic Plus.
Right, this is the trinket, the spoils. Now I remember. Yes, this is the one, the chosen one. But did we get any like updates on this? Will this like be nerfed down with the secondary stat? I mean, it's pretty bonkers for this to sim at 372, currently better than...
I'm guessing, I don't know if the sims calculate every possible proc. It might have shown like the best proc over, because obviously it can be any of the 4 secondary stats. Now, there are some specs that don't really care about 1 or 2 of them, so I don't know how that scales, and if you get those procs, it's only every 2 minutes. It's not like you want to hold it until you get the right, maybe if you use like a week or something to get the right stack, because you kind of want to time it with combustion, with power infusion and stuff like that. So it does have some drawbacks. Maybe that can keep it from getting nerfed, maybe?
Hopefully. I mean, I love some out of this world trinkets.
Some fat stuff.
Yeah, and again, for some people, this might be boring because you just gain a stat and then you blast. You know, it's not that like super impactful, but I kind of like these. Like, just have variety for all these trinkets, because you cannot make all the trinkets do this amount of damage to 5 targets split between them and all of that. So it's pretty cool
for sure.
All right, let's get to the weapon. What is it?
This is from the blacksmith bot, the Forgestorm. It's a one-handed mace. It doesn't have a main stat, but it has stamina, crit, and haste. Your attacks have a chance to ignite Forgestorm for 12 seconds, causing your attacks to explode for a certain amount of fire damage split between all nearby enemies. Damage is increased for each enemy hit. It's again with the the 5 enemies hits makes it deal more damage thing.
Yeah, I mean, being like a one-handed mace, it could be a contender for a lot of the melee specs, but it has no main stats, so...
That's, the proc would have to be strong.
The proc, usually when we had in the past items like these, with no main stat, the effect was pretty strong. This was like the trade-off,
I don't remember, did Gavel have main stat?
I don't believe so, no. I don't think it had, no. But regardless, this could potentially be a contender with other one-handers for like melee specs, especially like in dungeons and stuff.
I mean, the proc effect, the way it looks like, it seems like it's pretty strong. If it slaps in AoE, I would imagine you cannot get 2 of these. There's tunic equipped. The fact that it doesn't have a mace that could be used by holy paladins.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of specs that could potentially test this out and stuff. But again, pretty hard to like figure out how strong it is due to the fact that there's like it's like zero chance to like get these on the PTR and like properly number them out. We'll have to see. But judging on like history in WoW, these items tend to be very strong when they don't have main stats. We'll see. Sounds promising. I'll just have to say it's looking juicy for my rogue at least. Shall we move to Uldaman?
Oh, yes.
Uldaman. Well, first of all, we have the trinket from the dwarves. It's an agility and strength trinket, Homeland Raid Horn.
Hell yeah.
And it has a use effect. You call upon the lost dwarves to rain down cannon fire at your location, dealing fire damage split between you and all your enemies over 3 seconds. So this trinket will deal damage to you as well. And the damage is increased for each enemy struck, each target struck, up to 5 targets. So if you have four enemies, you can cap it out with yourself.
This is going to be perfect for unholy decays and frost decays that pop AMS with this, and then you just like stay in the fire. But okay, does it deal damage only to you or to your allies as well?
Right,
I don't know. I was actually wondering that.
Because I mean,
but it's you and all enemies, so it's not. It's all enemies. Not
the proc seems very strong though.
Oh yeah. I mean, this could potentially get you in trouble sometimes, depending on how much damage you can take in. But regardless, I can totally see this happening on a couple of specs, like Even for my Red Paladin, it looks pretty strong, especially because it's fire damage, and Red Paladins will have some buffers to their like
you think that
radiant damage. Well, radiant is fire and holy, so if it will affect the trinkets. Although I think they mentioned at some point they whitelisted this from the class school increases. So if you have like a fire mage who deals fire damage, its buffing to fire damage will not affect trinkets and such.
You say this, but the raid trinkets on a monk 4 set get buffed.
Oh yeah.
The beacon from the beyond gets buffed by the shadow damage from the Windwalker 4 set. So do the bombs. So they say this, but
I'm thinking that's gonna be changed, right? Because it was ridiculous when we tested it.
I'm hoping so. Yes.
Yeah, it is. This is what I know. They kind of. I think it was in BFA when they made a post about whitelisting like usable trinkets and like effects on weapons and stuff. They whitelisted from the classes.
Yeah, it was a big announcement.
Yeah,
not everybody buffs fire the same way.
Yeah,
it wouldn't
that's
be
true.
like.
I mean, there was that whole discussion about versatility being super strong because most of the trinkets are being scaled off of that and blah 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 blah. But again, they could potentially be something there. But I don't know. It's just flavorful for sure. Let's move along to the tank trinket if there is one. Yeah, there is one.
There is the Inexorable Resonator. It's a stamina trinket, and the equip effect is falling below 50% health, activates the defense matrix for 12 seconds, which has a high chance to react to your damage taken, counter-attacking for some fire damage and absorbing the next some amount of damage you take. It's every 2 minutes you can get this. So it's again an oh shit, I guess.
It's okay. The fact that it's a 2-minute internal cooldown kind of makes me think that they want this to be slightly of a cheat death style.
Looks like it for sure.
Remembering the Sanctum Fate Scribe trinket for tanks. It depends, of course, how strong the proc is. At 250 level, it seems decently strong. It's the main issue is that it's pure defensive. It has no offensive capabilities except for the counteracting, and of course we've had these style of trinkets before. It definitely matters what the proc is. There's a high chance. I don't know what a high chance is, but we also had in Sanctum the defense matrix that tanks would use that had the counter attack mechanic deal pretty substantial damage back. So I definitely, this is indeed a numbers game because you're not getting any main stat, you're not getting any passive damage. It's just every 2 minutes you might be doing some damage back, which is kind of niche though.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna work out like a cheat dead, semi-cheat dead trinket, definitely a powerful contender. But again, there's a lot of like contenders in the raid and the professions as well that could possibly take the cake out of this one. It will all boil down to numbers for sure. What's next? Time Breaching Talon. This is a haste trinket, so no main stat. The use is still power from your future self. I mean, I love the fact that they flavored this so much with the dungeon. It's amazing. So still power from your future self, gaining 1.6k intellect.
Oh man,
this was a question mark. So
okay, so
it's an intellect. It's an intellect proc.
So you get the 1.6k intellect for 20 seconds. That's a lot. And then losing 509 intellect for 20 seconds. Okay.
So you kind of lose a third of it. This is 2 minute. Oh, okay. It's a 2.5 minute cooldown. I was thinking this sounds like it's gonna be good for fire mages and maybe Destro logs that are really pumping during their cooldowns.
Oh my god, this is a burst trinket for sure.
But it's on a 2.3 minute cooldown. It doesn't align with any of those cooldowns. I mean, I don't know what's the rate of combustion procs when you play kindling. Like, do you have it every minute and 10 seconds or something like that, and maybe you can use it every
I think this could align with combust, to be fair, judging by the fact that combust will probably be somewhere around the same minute mark, because you'll have 20 seconds of increased intellect and 20 seconds of downtime. You have lower intellect, which is problem, so you don't use that, and by the couple of next 20 seconds you'll have your combustion ready. I can totally see this for fire mages, not sure on other casters though, because of the 2 minute and a half cooldown.
Oh, for sure. I think this in terms of design is actually really cool. It definitely matters what the numbers are, because this could be one of those trinkets that you can also take consideration. Like, oh my god, we just need to push the boss a little bit more in this phase. I know your damage is gonna suck by the end, but we just need people to do a little bit more. And I feel like this is the trinket that can do stuff like that. And I kind of like niche trinkets. Like, oh, in this fight I'm just gonna equip this. My damage might be overall lower because I'm losing the overall intellect, but we're gonna push it through this phase. So I'm gonna pop it there, and it's gonna be really cool. And I kind of like this stuff.
Oh yeah. I don't know, man. It does sound like a Giga Burst trinket, judging from the numbers that you're probably gonna get on this.
For sure.
Yep.
All right, boys and gals, shall we move to Cataclysm, please? We have lots of questions regarding the items from Vortex Pinnacle.
We just had it testable last couple of days.
And did you? No, you cannot get any items from this Mythic Plus dungeons, and then
no, you don't get items. No.
God damn it. Well, I guess the first question mark would be: do necks and rings retain their main stats? Because there used to be a time in WoW where rings and necks had main stats.
What a time to be alive.
Because
I think it will change. There's also parry on some of the items there. I don't think we have parry anymore right now.
Not as a
lot of the items also had double sockets, which would be very cool.
And socket bonus as well. But that was like tied to Cataclysm.
This is definitely an interesting discussion, because obviously loot tables are subject to change. We've seen this with Legion dungeons where they've added weapons, where we didn't have weapon drops in Legion. And I wouldn't put it past them to change the loot table in Vortex Pinnacle. However, I do want to point out that it could be cool and refreshing to see some different style of trinkets and rings, provided they're not gonna be, the best in slot, 100% guaranteed, take this. And although, tanks still use parry, you don't get parry from any actual parry dedicated stats, because you just get them for crit on most tanks. It would be interesting to see these kinds of niche things, like, oh, remember the old days when you used to get a hit chance on trinket? Obviously, I don't know how it probably doesn't work that well nowadays, but it would be interesting to see how much of the nostalgia they can keep with these items.
Yeah. Okay, let's get it off with the first one. This is like a versatility trinket, Heart of Thunder. On use effect, increase max HP by a certain amount for 15 seconds. This is so old school, man.
Oh my god.
This is like the old PvP trinkets.
It does share a cooldown.
And it shares cooldown with the Battlemaster's trinket.
So, okay, both of you guys play bait tanks. Is this a thing anymore for increasing max HP?
No.
Do you have any beneficial effects out of this?
No, it's very bad, because the only situation where you would use an increase in health on a trinket specifically like this for 15 seconds is usually when you want to avoid a tank buster, which there are not that many of anymore. Obviously, there are mechanics in the game that give you a boost of HP, like Last Stand, like Incarn, like Metamorphosis, Vampire Blood, Every tank except probably... No, Brewmaster has it in Fortifying Brew as well. So all tanks have a mechanic where they gain a boost of HP. It's nice. It's not really why they like that defensive most of the time. So gaining a bunch of health is not something that tanks can use effectively in combat outside of just surviving a big hit, because that health is going to go away, and if it doesn't go away, then this is useless and you just get the versatility. So I would be surprised if this becomes valid at any point.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's kind of redundant to talk about the Cataclysm items dropping in the next season, because we don't have answers regarding, you know, the next and the rings and maybe some other pieces of loot over there, including this trinket as well, since you want to do dungeons for loot, and if the loot is pretty poop for its purpose...
This is very interesting because obviously we have the patch announced and we don't know what the Vortex loot is going to be like. There's no way to test, there's nowhere to see.
Yep.
So it's maybe a little bit alarming, but I guess we'll see. I think it's gonna be fine in the end though.
All right. Let's go to the Neltharian's lair. We have a bunch of trinkets here, and well, shall we start it off with the tank one? Son?
Yes, the Shard of Rockmora. It's an agility and strength trinket with a use effect that lasts 30 seconds. Encase your body in crystal, absorbing up to some amount of damage from each attack against you. And it absorbs up to, at 50 item level, it's 1.3k plus some versatility of total damage. So it also works with versatility. And yeah, it's just a defensive trinket. Not much to say about this one, I think.
This is probably a better version of the previous one that we've seen with the extra HP.
What I'm saying.
It's looking like at 170 eye level, which doesn't really say much. It shields you for 22, absorbs up to 22k damage. If this scales linearly all the way up to like 400 and I don't know, 30, 40, 50, whatever we'll have in the next season, this could be a lot.
This looks like a lot. This looks like a lot of absorb.
This actually could be good depending on, and it lasts for 30 seconds. So you're probably gonna have this, you know, pretty much up all the time. So it's a 2-minute cooldown. Like a 25% of the time, you're gonna have this absorb shield up if it doesn't get consumed, which is really good for tanks. Absorb is way better than HP.
But the next one though, the talisman
is even better.
Yeah, exactly. So the talisman of the Crag Shaper prevents 50% of all damage taken for 15 seconds, can absorb a max amount of percentage damage on a 1-minute cooldown. So not only do you get a 50% damage reduction, you can also absorb a certain amount of damage.
Yes.
So I feel this is way leagues above the first one.
Yeah, damage reduction
1 minute cooldown,
is
baby.
way better. I'm
1 minute cooldown.
I'm looking at the absorb, and it's like 3 times as less. I think this. Obviously, they're both good. This is all very, very subject to sim because we need to know exactly the effective HP that this has. And I like the damage reduction way more than just a flat absorb shield. Obviously, and it is. I really love tank trinkets with a 1-minute cooldown.
That's what I'm saying. It is on a 1-minute cooldown. You cannot really beat a 1-minute cooldown, especially if the prevention is at 50%. This is a very, very potent trinket for like oh shit moments. Because yeah, I agree the absorb is like lowish and stuff, but you know it's paired up with the 50% damage reduction. Plus you can use this every 1 minute, as opposed to the Giga absorb from the first one, which will be on the 2-minute cooldown. So yeah, I think, this is very good.
Historically, 1-minute tank trinkets have been pretty good.
Yeah. One difference would be that it will not have main stat, this talisman, as opposed to the first one. It will have versatility. I don't know how much that will impact the choosing of the two. I still feel people are gonna go for the second one though, even with that.
Well, I think so too.
Neither will the next one have main stat, Narax's Spiked Tongue. It has mastery, and it says your range attacks and spells have a chance to launch a ball of venom that deals up to 2.2k nature damage based on your distance from the target, maximum damage at 20 yards. This is, you know, at 170 level, that's the damage that it has. This kind of reminds me of the Karazhan trinket that we had last season in Sepulchre that launched the balls of lightning stuff. And that was probably the most overpowered caster trinket in the last season of Shadowlands. I don't know if this is going to be on the same level. It's interesting that it has a range component to its proc.
I mean, it's interesting because it enables another like quote-unquote mini game. Keep the distance as far as possible, but not too much, like max 20 yards, and you'll do the most amount of damage.
It's
cool.
It's very number based, so it's kind of hard to judge, though.
Yeah.
It was very good back in Legion.
So
was this Legion? Yeah, it was Legion.
It was Legion. Yeah.
I think a lot of people liked it. It was a lot of mastery, and I'm not sure if the distance is capped at 20 yards. I think to be at least 20 yards away.
Yeah,
it's capped. Maximum damage at 20 yards. Further than 20 yards, it doesn't give you any extra bonus. So far.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you can be 30 or 40. You're not going to do less damage.
Yeah. But you cannot beat melee, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what it's saying. Don't be melee.
It for sure was one of the Legion highlights in terms of trinkets. I don't know if that will translate to Dragonfly Season 2. We'll have to see. Can we get some melee trinkets now? Kind of tired of this.
Finally. Well, that is the Mark of Dargrol, which is from the last boss. I mean, doesn't really matter. It's going to be in the chest. It's a crit trinket. It doesn't have main stat. Your melee attacks have a chance to trigger a landslide, dealing 1500 physical damage. It's physical damage to all enemies directly in front of you. Finally, one that's not capped at 5 targets so far.
True.
But it's capped in front of you.
Yeah, you have to position. That's fine.
It's
I
always
guess.
a thing.
Yeah, it's fine. It will depend on the tank, right? But regardless, if again another like crit trinket, like crit trinkets will be very juicy for a couple of specs for sure. That will value crit a lot in Season 2. A lot of melees will value that. Now, if the crit is great, then yeah, the damage component could also be very, very cool. How much is the crit at this level?
The crit is 61 at like 179 level. The crit is probably going to be good. What's interesting is like, I don't know how much this matters because I haven't played with this in Legion, but it has a 2-second internal cooldown. So fast attacking melee specs might actually proc this a little bit more. I'm seeing Havocs, I'm seeing Rogues, I'm seeing maybe Windwalkers as well.
Yeah,
Fury Warriors probably too.
Fury Warriors too. In terms of like the attack speed, could potentially have like a lot more benefits for melees who attack fast, and having the enhanced shamans over there as well. But yeah, pretty cool. Not like the most amazing one in the world, but
it's just damage procs.
I'm saying this because I know what trinkets are now in the raid as well.
Yeah, they have a ways to go.
But we're not done yet. And now it's time to move to the real stars of the show, the BFA items from the 2 dungeons that remain on our list. With a little bit of a caveat here, we still have like Azerite power armor dropping from these 2 dungeons, so I'm hoping those will get addressed pretty soon, because we don't use Azerite armor. Thank God for that. But let's talk about the Harlan's Loaded Dice, which was Abyss trinket for, I think, all agility melees. If I'm not mistaken,
it was even ranged.
It was.
Right?
I don't know about range.
Ranged, I think.
Oh, hunters too?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, hunters too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if this will retain its value, it's gonna be super nice because, for one, Freehold is a cool dungeon to do. Second, Freehold is an easy dungeon to do. So you will have a lot more chances to get your best trinket. I love this. I
mean, there are so many unused trinkets that having a passive one is pretty much mandatory for most specs, and this is one of the best ones they've ever made. I think.
I mean, for agility folks, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind having this for my Red Paladin for the crit, but it's agility, so I'll still have my rogue.
It's a very roguey trinket. It's pretty much roll the dice on a rogue.
Yes, but having some cool ass stats
but actual good procs.
Yeah. Shut up. No, it's good. We also have Underrot, and I was curious because the first one on the list was the rot-crusted voodoo doll. Yeah. I don't know about. Did you ever use this, Such? Because I remember this being kind of like a poopy trinket. I don't know if you used it.
It wasn't that poopy. It's an intellect trinket. I do remember using it. I don't remember loving it so much, but it was okay. You would throw the doll at the target. It deals some shadow damage, so it's a dot, and then it can proc another dot after.
I mean.
Yeah, I remember it was simming a little bit, but only until you got like proper trinkets, so I don't know how this kills now. I would imagine as a caster, considering the options we have today, we might not see very much of this.
Yeah, okay, but the absolute creme de la creme here for once again for the agility boys and girls, the Bile-Stained Crawg Tusks. This was. Man, that I farm Underrot to have 2 of these.
Dude.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
Underrot is not the easiest dungeon in BFA to do, especially if you're pugging. If you know what to do, it's okay, but it can be very punishing, even in a coordinated group. However, if you talk about demon hunters, monks, probably outlaw rogues as well, definitely outlaw rogues as well for one piece of their one-hander. This was great, and once again, similar to the loaded dice, if this will retain a similar value as it did in BFA, oh boys, this is gonna be Blizz. This is totally gonna be Blizz. Love it.
The farming of Underrot will begin.
Yes. Oh, you can.
This is.
can
I
picture
love
it.
seeing weapons like this because we know in the raid we have a bunch of weapons. None of them are one-handed, so maybe they've actually really thought this through of putting Underrot in the next season.
You think?
Because now we have. Well, it won't compete with like a raid potential weapon, right? Because you have fists now and you don't have fists in raid, so that's actually really cool. I kind of always loved it. It never really dropped for me, so maybe this time will be different.
Oh yeah, no, it's cool, and again, it's thematic with the dungeon, and I love it. It's not only because of the fact that it was like Blizz, it was also like a cool item to have. It's not like, okay, it does good damage because it has high item level and a good amount of secondary stats or whatever.
It was a nice thing to chase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool indeed. What do we have next?
The lingering spore pods.
Yes.
Again, an agility strength. This makes your attacks and attacks made against you. They have a chance to trigger spores to grow for 4 seconds before bursting. And when they burst, they restore some health to you and deal some amount of damage split between all the nearby enemies. So it's an AoE proc. Deals increased damage when striking multiple times.
Maybe more for the tanks?
Yeah, it's likely.
Yeah, I guess so, because it's attacks made against you.
It depends. It depends exactly how it scales. What's damage? Once again, it's very hard to judge these. Obviously, if it is for tanks, and it is for tanks, it's gonna be pure Mythic Plus. I would find it hard to see a lot of value with this raid. Obviously, it works better when you have more people, more mobs attacking you. It's not a bad one per se. It's again one that I don't remember being top of the meters at then, but at the time we had like a different loot pool altogether. So this time around, it could be good. It's nice to see like different types of tank trinkets, not just boost your HP, absorbs, have some damage back. It's kind of nice for tanks that kind of struggle a little bit with output.
Oh, for sure. Now, the last trinket from Underrot, this was such a good trinket for my red back in the day. Vial of Animated Blood. First of all, it gave mastery, and second of all, when you used it, you gain a good chunk of strength, which would decay on 18 seconds. But not only that, it was on a 1.5 minute cooldown. It was so good.
The cooldown is very low. Once again, I don't think it matches almost anybody's cooldown profile. Maybe Warrior. I don't know. Wings are like 1 minute now, right? So
yeah. Well, this is the thing. It could potentially still be good, but because it was very good for red back in the day, because it also had the mastery, and mastery was like super biz for red. Not the case anymore in 10.1.
That's the strength.
But yeah, the strength depends on how much strength they make it out to be. It could potentially still be one of the best. I mean, the thing is, the alignment with the cooldown, sure, it wasn't like the biggest star shining thing about it, but the amount of mastery plus strength you would get, that would like overshadow any alignment you would have. So you can make use of this during wings, and you can also use it sometimes when you're not out of rings. And in BFA, wings was in the 2 minute cooldown. I can totally see it from different specs. I don't know how much mastery arms warrior values, or fury warrior, or death knight. Maybe
both death knights like mastery a lot, so it was really good for I remember because I played a lot of death knight at the time. This was almost mandatory. For Unholy, it was very good for Frost as well. I can definitely see this maybe on Fury. I know Fury sometimes likes to rock a lot of mastery, especially in AoE. Yeah, the 1.5 minute cooldown is definitely going to factor into it to an extent, but then again, it's always good to have strength, and it's 18 seconds decaying, but still 18 seconds.
No, that's good. It's good, and I can totally see this being biz for a couple of strength classes, not paladins necessarily, unless they really give like that huge chunk of strength.
Chunk.
It's very bursty.
Yeah, For sure.
Nothing else.
For sure. Is this like
this seems like it's pretty much all of them, right? Outside of us not actually knowing what was going to be converted from Vortex Pinnacle, so we're kind of still waiting to see exactly how that pans out in the new season. But hey, looking good. It's interesting items.
And I'll tell you, there is a chance that by the time this video is out, they already announce what the items will be for the others.
They're gonna do
this
it,
happens often, guys. So please don't hate on us. You know, we recorded and researched this before they announced anything. All right. So, but it's looking.
You're a week late.
Yeah, well, always. There's so much information and so much stuff that is happening with patch 10.1. You know, it's pretty hard to we have to do like 10 videos in a day just to keep up to date and get the information out. And it's fine, okay? It's fine. But I'm happy. Overall sentiment is pretty positive. Like, I love the fact that we're gonna get back a couple of these items that will be really, really great. For some, we can call it quite insane. Depending on how the numbers will be tuned.
They will have to be to compete with what we get in the raid, because this raid has probably the most interesting trinkets lineup that we've seen in a while. So this only makes a lot more sense that the dungeons also kind of measure up, so that we have like a healthy balance between going to raid, going to dungeon. And we also cover that in a video that you can check on our channel. Yeah,
let us know in the comments what you think, what are you most excited about, depending on what you're going to play in 10.1. Love to read these comments as always. Thank you, Patreons, for supporting the content. Thank you for watching until the end. And now we shall
see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classical retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.